There's a particular kind of morning that many people know very well. You open your eyes, reach for your phone, and immediately feel behind. Nothing terrible has happened. You're not sick. You can still get up, make coffee, answer messages, and begin the day. But everything feels slightly harder than it should. You read the same sentence 3 times. A simple decision feels irritating. Someone asks an ordinary question, and you hear pressure in their voice. By the afternoon, you're looking for sugar, caffeine, or anything that might make your brain feel awake again. And because you're still functioning, you rarely call this sleep deprivation. You call it laziness. You call it lack of discipline. You wonder whether you're losing your focus, your patience, or maybe even your ambition. This is one of the most confusing things about poor sleep. It doesn't always feel like tiredness. Sometimes it feels like becoming a more anxious, distracted, and emotionally fragile version of yourself. This is something worth noticing before you start judging your personality based on a bad week. A tired brain can produce very convincing thoughts about your life. I can't handle anything anymore. I'm falling behind. Why is everyone irritating me? I used to be more capable than this. Those thoughts may contain real concerns, but when you have been sleeping badly, your brain isn't evaluating those concerns from a neutral place. It's evaluating them while several of the systems responsible for attention, emotional regulation, and self-control are working with fewer resources. Sleep isn't simply a period when the brain switches off. During the night, the brain moves through different stages that support memory, learning, emotional processing, and physical recovery. You don't have to remember the names of those stages. What matters is the practical consequence. While you sleep, your brain is doing maintenance that can't be replaced by willpower the next morning. After one poor night, you may notice that your attention drifts more easily. After several, it can become difficult to separate exhaustion from your normal way of thinking. You begin tasks, then move to something else without deciding to. You forget why you entered a room. You postpone a small responsibility because it feels mentally larger than it is. You reach for your phone during every moment of discomfort. This doesn't mean your intelligence has disappeared. More often, what has become weaker is your ability to direct yourself. There's a difference. Think of the last time you slept badly and had to work the next day. You probably still knew what needed to be done. The problem was getting your mind to stay with it. You may have opened a document, stared at it, checked a message, returned to the document, made coffee, checked another message, and then felt strangely exhausted despite producing very little. This is where people often become harsh with themselves. They assume the answer is to apply more pressure. So they speak to themselves in a way they would never speak to another tired person. Stop being useless. Just focus. You're wasting the day. The pressure may create a brief burst of activity, but it also increases stress, and stress makes sleep more difficult later. You end the day tired, frustrated, and worried about tomorrow. Then bedtime becomes another place where you try to perform. You lie down thinking, I have to sleep now, I can't have another day like this. Of course, the more urgently you try to force sleep, the more alert you become. There's also an emotional cost to poor sleep that people underestimate. When you're rested, you have a little more space between what happens and how you respond. A delayed reply is just a delayed reply. A mistake is annoying, but manageable. A change of plans is inconvenient, not catastrophic. When you're exhausted, that space gets smaller. A neutral expression can look disapproving. A minor problem can feel like evidence that the whole day is going wrong. You may become more sensitive to rejection, more impatient with uncertainty, and more likely to interpret discomfort as danger. That doesn't mean your feelings are fake. It means the volume may be turned up. Sometimes the most responsible thing you can do in the middle of an emotional reaction isn't to solve it immediately. It may be to say, "This matters, but I'm too tired to interpret it clearly tonight." That sentence can prevent many unnecessary arguments. Poor sleep also changes what feels worth doing. A well-rested brain can tolerate effort for a delayed reward. You can study now because the result matters later. You can exercise even if you don't feel immediate pleasure. You can work through a difficult problem without needing constant stimulation. A tired brain usually wants relief sooner. That's why, after a bad night, you may crave quick rewards. Food, scrolling, shopping, caffeine, another episode, anything that changes your state immediately. Again, this isn't a moral failure. It's useful information. If you know your brain will search for relief when tired, you can stop treating the urge as a surprising betrayal and plan around it. You can make the important tasks smaller. You can put the phone in another room for 20 minutes. You can prepare a simple meal before you're too hungry to choose well. You can lower the number of decisions you expect yourself to make. This isn't giving in, it's adjusting to reality. Now, there's a common trap here. People hear all of this and turn sleep into another self-improvement project. They buy devices, create a perfect evening routine, track every minute, and become anxious whenever the numbers aren't ideal. That usually misses the point. The goal isn't perfect sleep. The goal is to stop treating sleep as the first thing you sacrifice and the last thing you repair. For many people, the most useful change isn't a complicated routine. It's deciding when the day is allowed to end. Notice that wording. Not when every task is finished. That time may never come. When the day is allowed to end. Choose a point in the evening when you stop adding new work. You may still need to wash dishes, prepare for tomorrow, or care for someone, but you stop expanding the day. You stop opening new problems at midnight. Your brain needs a clear signal that it's no longer responsible for solving everything. It also helps to move unfinished thoughts out of your head. Before bed, write down 3 things: what is unfinished, what can wait, and what you'll do first tomorrow. This isn't a productivity list. It's a way of telling the mind, you don't need to rehearse this all night, it has been recorded. An anxious mind often repeats thoughts because it's afraid they will be forgotten. Writing them down doesn't remove the problem, but it reduces the need to mentally guard it. Another useful question isn't only, what time do I sleep? But, what keeps me from wanting to go to sleep? For some people, it's work. For others, it's the feeling that nighttime is the only part of the day that belongs to them. They are tired, but they continue watching videos because going to bed feels like giving up their last hour of freedom. This is sometimes called revenge bedtime procrastination, but the label is less important than the need underneath it. If your whole day is controlled by obligations, your mind may protect late-night time even when it harms you. The solution isn't simply stricter discipline. You may need a small part of the evening that genuinely feels like yours before you're completely exhausted. 20 quiet minutes with no demand can be more helpful than 2 hours of restless scrolling. And for some people, silence itself is difficult. During the day, activity keeps certain thoughts at a distance. At night, when the room becomes quiet, worries become louder. So the phone stays on. The television stays on. The mind keeps consuming because stopping feels uncomfortable. If this is familiar, don't start by demanding complete silence. Make the transition gentler. Use the same low light. Take a warm shower. Listen to something calm that doesn't keep pulling your attention forward. Read a few pages of something familiar. Repeat a simple sequence often enough that your body begins to recognize it. The message isn't, you must sleep now. The message is, nothing else is required from you tonight. There will also be nights when you do everything reasonably well and still can't sleep. That happens. Stress, pain, work schedules, children, medication, health conditions, and many other factors affect sleep. This is why shame is such a poor treatment plan. If sleep problems are persistent or seriously affecting your life, professional support matters. But even before that, you can stop turning every tired day into a judgment about who you're. On those days, reduce unnecessary decisions. Do the essential work first. Use notes instead of relying on memory. Avoid major emotional conversations when possible. Expect your attention to wander and bring it back without making it a personal crisis. You're not lowering your standards forever. You're allowing a tired system to recover. The next time you wake up after a bad night and immediately begin criticizing yourself, Pause before you create a story. Maybe you haven't lost your motivation. Maybe your relationship isn't suddenly falling apart. Maybe you're not becoming incapable. Maybe your brain is tired, and tired brains aren't always reliable narrators. Rest won't solve every problem in your life, but many problems become unnecessarily cruel when you face them without it. Before you decide that you need a new personality, a new career, or a completely new life, ask a more basic question. When was the last time your mind felt genuinely rested? If this helped you recognize a pattern you have been blaming on yourself, leave a comment and subscribe. Here, we look at the quiet behaviors that shape your life before you realize they are happening.